Hello everyone, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video I'm going to be going over some of the fundamentals about when and why to obtain a passage bird. Now, people use the term passage bird a little bit differently regionally and depends on how nitpicky you are about definitions. But basically, once a bird is no longer under the care of its parents, and it has not been through its whole first year yet. It doesn't have adult plumage. So basically birds in the summertime, they're feeding their babies, and their babies are getting fat, they're growing feathers. It's an easy time of year. There's food everywhere. Baby birds are hatching, young mammals are being born. Food is plentiful. And then at some point, the parents ditch out. They leave and probably start migrating, and the babies are like, huh? What? And then they start to wail or scream, meh, meh, and eventually they realize, wow, mom and dad aren't coming back. It's time for me to kind of move on. And of course, that's a little different depending on each species. But basically, once they've left their nest and are on hunting on their own, they're a passage bird for their first year. Now, this kind of becomes the essence of the origins of falconry. Nowadays, there's all kinds of options. Captive bred birds, or people keep their birds for multiple seasons. We have fridges and freezers that we can stockpile food to feed our birds in the off-season. But it used to be that people who farmed and hunted the winter months, the fall and winter months, were very difficult to obtain food. So if you could, here's a migrating hawk or a migrating falcon. I'm going to trap it, train it to trust me, build that relationship of trust, and then I'm going to, for the fall and winter, hunt with it. We will share the kill, and then in the springtime, I will set it free. I'm not going to keep it, clearly, because I only have this bird for the purpose of obtaining food. Nowadays, we're enjoying the art and the sport of falconry, and you might keep a bird longer. So I could go species by species and give my thoughts on all of this, but if you're a new falconer or a prospective falconer, of course, listen to your sponsor because species and regions vary. I really want to highlight in particular two species, but these principles will apply elsewhere. That is the red-tailed hawk and the American kestrel. When I first got into falconry, these were the two only legal options for a new falconer to train. Now that has changed in most states. That's opened up quite a bit, but still, these are good choices to train as a new bird. They are readily available and fairly easy to train, and perhaps most importantly, you don't have to have telemetry on them. You can fly them without telemetry and probably won't lose them. So this is an important principle. Fall, everything changes. Now, I'm in Utah, and I know, you could be watching this in Mexico, you could be watching this in Canada, you can watch this in Florida, you could be watching this in Brazil. I don't know who you are or where you're watching this. Utah is kind of a pretty standard seasonal state. Summer, winter, fall, spring. And in the fall, then usually around the first week of October, there's a chill in the air, and there's an energy. Suddenly, the easiest, most unintelligent prey has died, has been eaten already. And the kind of the derpiest predators haven't made it. And now you're left with this battle, this epic dance between predator and prey. Now, a lot of the prey species, birds that are, a lot of the mammals, like ground squirrels, are about to go into hibernation. And a lot of the birds that are eating seeds and insects are starting to migrate south, so they will still have food, and predators are having to migrate accordingly. So for the first time, they're having these huge exhaustive aerobic demands placed on their body. They've only had to hunt so far. Now they're having to migrate. They're learning how to soar and glide. And so let's take the example of a red-tailed hawk first, and I'll give you my opinions. Around here, we do have red-tailed hawks in our valleys, but most of them are nesting high up in the mountains. Parents have left, and late September, first weekend of October, you have storms in the mountains. A lot of the ground squirrels are going underground, and so they start to wander, and they sail down into the valleys. Now remember, they can see infrared colors in the infrared spectrum. So when they're sailing over farmland, anywhere that has a high density of rodents, when the rodents come out of the ground and go to the bathroom, it's invisible to our eyes, but to a bird of prey, it's fluorescent pink. So these red-tailed hawks instinctively know, hey, where's a field that has a whole bunch of splotches of pink? And then they go and they land and they start hunting. Now, for a red-tailed hawk, red-tailed hawks have the potential to be incredibly dangerous to humans, very aggressive, very violent. They can also be the exact opposite, very easy to train and easy to work with. Here in Utah, we are usually training them to pursue cottontails and jackrabbits, most particularly jackrabbits. Now, that's a lot bigger than anything they've been hunting. So if you get them the first week of October, second week of October is magic. Now this is regional. Again, talk to your sponsor, but I want to give some basics so you understand that these principles are important. What a red-tailed hawk does is all it knows is I was a fluffy baby in a nest. Mom and dad brought me food. I grew up. I started to branch and hop around, started to fly a little. Mom and dad ditched out on me. I hunted very easy ground squirrels and voles up in the mountain meadows, and then it got cold. There was cold rain and maybe even a little bit of snow. So I went down to the valley, and then here's where you come in. Then this human put out this cage with a rat inside or a gerbil, and I went down to see if I could get into that, and I was able to, and they caught me and took me home, and then they started feeding me off the fist, and step by step, okay? What I'm saying is the distance of every phase of this red-tail's life so far, you are just a phase. That is natural and easy, and they don't fight against it. It's just a normal progression. If you can aim for roughly that first week in October, really the month of October is gold. Now, if you get a red-tailed hawk earlier, what is the danger? One of the biggest problems is they haven't had enough of a gap away from their parents. If you get an August or a September red-tail, which you can, and they can be trained, I'm just warning you of a pitfall, of a danger, then remember in the nest, they have to mantle over their food. My siblings are going to take my food. We're aggressive. And right at that age where the aggression starts to turn towards the parents leave. And if you are right there to catch a red-tailed hawk at that age, then they're not an imprint, but there's a little bit of that parental parent-child dynamic, and that can very easily turn to aggression. So taking a red-tailed hawk or any hawk too early as a passage bird, watch for that aggression. There's potential for danger. Now, the later you take a passage hawk, especially a red-tailed hawk, they're still trainable, but they've had this. After they've let their parents come to the valleys, they've had weeks, months, and they have it down. I sit on a perch, I look down, and I wait for a rodent to scurry, and I grab them. So then you come along and you trap them, and they're like, "Who are you, monkey man?" They're trying to figure this out, and they're still trainable, but you have interrupted what has become normal to them. To be like, "No, fly to my glove, and let's go chase rabbits." They're okay. Again, still completely trainable, but an October red-tail for our Utah population here is just dynamite, absolute gold. So again, talk to your sponsor, talk to the falconers in your area. There should be a window of time that is the golden time. And again, if you're going earlier, be careful of aggression, food-related aggression. And if you're going later than that, just be aware you're going to have a little bit more work ahead of you. Now, kestrels. Let's talk about kestrels. I have the exact opposite view with kestrels. You can train any kestrel, any age. They're pretty straightforward. But most people who want to fly a kestrel are hoping to hunt birds. Kestrels are supremely able to do this. They can do it with no problem. But, it's a lot easier catching a grasshopper, catching a worm, catching a dragonfly, catching a mouse. It's way easier. So, in my mind, the closer to leaving the parents that you can catch a kestrel, the better. Again, for the same reason, but that is the golden moment for a Kestrel. I love imprint Kestrels, honestly, because you can just make them into whatever you want. You can have them chase whatever you want. I want you to chase helicopters. I want you to chase badgers. I mean, literally, you could. They're just like, what are we going to do? What are we going to chase? So, but short of flying an imprint Kestrel, if the parents are feeding them a lot of insects, a lot of invertebrate life. They're also feeding them mice. And of course, those babies are seeing that insect, mouse. They're seeing this brought to them, but it's not going to ruin them. You can still train them to hunt birds. If in those first few weeks, keep an eye on a nest and you see the parents are leaving, and around that time you put out a trap and you trap them, very easy to train them to go after birds. But if you're October, November, December trapping a Kestrel that's like, hi, I've spent 3 months going after mice, and I would prefer a grasshopper over anything, then being like, hey, you know what? Why don't you go as fast as you can and pursue a sparrow? They're like, why? I could just sit on this telephone line until a mouse appears. So again, still trainable, but the golden window, in my opinion, on a Kestrel is earlier you can get it, the better. And Red-Tailed Hawk, right when they've left, when they've had a few weeks to a month away from their parents to kind of forget about parental care, is ideal. Now with the accipiters, I don't want to go in. I'm going to do more videos on passage accipiters, but I want to just give a little bit of a thought on this. There's a window. The golden window for accipiters is when they are in the grove that they grew up in. They're flying, they're calling, they're wailing. We call this a family bird. They've grown up with their family. Mom and dad have been feeding them, and mom and dad might still loosely be feeding them. Mom and dad still might grab some food. They may come to the grove, but you're in that week where the parents are starting to really kind of leave them. If you get that is the nicest, tamest, most easygoing, easy to train, easy to hunt with accipiter, in my opinion, is that family bird age of that week that the parents are leaving them. Now you can get a baby, you can get an imprint them from day one, or you can get a late passage or anything in between, and they can all be trained. But I'm just saying, if you have a way, if you're wanting an accipiter and you're wanting the easiest to train, the least worry of stress from aspergillosis, from stress, and the least concern about aggression, that family bird age is, in my opinion, the golden age for accipiters. So these are just some guidelines to kind of give you a little bit of help, and I hope you do find them useful. I'm going to give, as we get into the fall itself, I'll do some videos more on trapping and training of passage birds. But I just wanted to give these basic principles. Again, talk to your sponsor and other experienced falconers in your area who know the ebb and flow of the seasons, of the nesting cycles, and of the behaviors of the bird in your area. It's a skill that you definitely want to seek out some advice on. So I hope this video is useful to you. Please check out my other videos, and if you subscribe to my channel, it really helps. Feel free in the comments to let me know other videos you would like to see. And as always, happy hawking.